Alright, people, midweek report time. Let's get straight into some of the topics that have been doing the rounds, some of the rumours of fights being happening, opponents, this, that. Let's get into everything. Now, first and foremost, we want to start with this, which is David Benavidez, David Morrell. Now, for me, obviously, Canelo versus Benavidez is probably, out of the options that we were hearing for Canelo, that's the fight that I would have liked to have seen from a purely entertainment point of view. Now, when the fight pretty much is falling apart now, it looks likely Canelo is going to take on Charlo, which that fight is probably the one I wanted the least, just because I just think that's a fairly run-of-the-mill win for Canelo. This fight would have been interesting, but it obviously means, well, who is Benavidez going to fight instead then? So, David Morrell. Now, this is the interesting thing. According to Benavidez's promoter, it was agreed in principle, right? So, what you have to remember is agreed in principle and agreed are they're two different things, right? And David Benavidez came out and basically said, he hasn't agreed to anything, which led to David Morrell absolutely going in. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but he went in on David Benavidez. So, in terms of this fight, we don't really know what's happening. Now, for me personally, I hope that maybe this is just David Benavidez maybe looking to get a bit more money, maybe something like that out of the table, because David Morrell is certainly not going to make him the kind of money that Canelo Alvarez would make him. And some people would be very heavily favouring Benavidez against Alvarez, and some vice versa, they'd be favouring Alvarez very heavily. It's a great fight, and it's a real contrast in style. It's a great fight. In terms of Benavidez versus Morrell, I've been just so impressed with what I've seen from Dave Morrell. It really does look like a tall task for Dave Benavidez. I wouldn't rule it out, but it's a tall task. And, for that, you ain't going to make as much money. And maybe that's what he's looking to try and do. I'm sure he has all the confidence in the world of beating him. But I think it's a tremendously competitive fight. I hope they can salvage it and get it over the line. Morrell obviously is the WBA regular champion. He's been pretty scathing to Benavidez, to say the least. Saying that he couldn't walk through, Cuba without getting his shoes robbed or something like that. It's crazy. But hopefully this fight will get resolved. They will get this over the line, because I think this is a tremendous fight. I really do. Benavidez obviously going off the back of that Caleb Plant win. It's a good win for him. Obviously Alvarez did do it, to be fair, in more convincing fashion. But this, if you're going from Plant to Morrell, you're not really taking your foot off the gas. You're really going in at the deep end there. So, look, I like the fight. I hope they can make it happen. I'm sure PBC would obviously want to get that fight over the line, because Benavidez is the bigger name. Dave Morrell is still, he's known amongst the hardcores, but him going in there against Benavidez, potentially winning, and that could really do wonders for him. In terms of some of the fights that are happening over this side of the pond, there's a couple of fights that are being talked about, mainly of which is going to be Chris Billam-Smith versus Mastanak. So, Mastanak was actually mandatory for Jaya Pataya, and obviously he decided not to go ahead with that. We kind of know now why. So, Mastanak versus Billam-Smith, because apparently Lawrence Okoli isn't going to go ahead with the rematch. Amen to that. Thank God for that, because once was bad enough. We do not need to see a replay of that, because I feel like, man, that was a hard watch. Do you know what, right? That fight, right? Excuse me. That fight, because Okoli got dropped a couple of times and it was so hanging in the balance, it made it more compelling than it actually was. You're not going to go back and rewatch that fight. That fight was horrific. So thank God for that. In terms of Mastanek, he is a very durable opponent. He's only been stopped once in his career. Excuse me. Still can't shake this cough. It's all I've had. I've had this cough the last week. Don't know where it came from. But in terms of Masnak's opponent, he's very durable. He's only been stopped once. He's been in there with some good guys. He normally goes the distance, and he normally gives a good account of himself. I remember when he fought Tony Bellew a couple of years, well, actually many years ago now. It was on the undercard of AJ versus White. And that was actually quite low down the cards for European title, if I believe. And it was, it was a unanimous decision for Bellew, but it was close. And Bellew buzzed Mastanek really, really bad in the last round, and he had him almost out of there. He did everything but drop him. And Bellew, in a way, needed that round, because if it was a very close score, I think it was a 5-7 type round, so that could have easily been a draw or something like that, which, if he didn't have buzzed him. So Mastanek has always been durable. He's always been one to go the rounds. But I think at this stage in his career, he's not firing, to say the least, on all cylinders. So for someone like Bill Smith, it's going to be a good first title defence. I'm not saying that he's going to go in there and look like $1,000,000, look devastating and, get rid of him. I don't think he will. But I'm sure that he's going to go in there and, full of confidence as he should, he's the world champion, and at least try and put on some kind of show. Bill Smith is a fighter who I think Eddie Hearn really should have tried to keep, because if you look at the crowds he's pulling in Bournemouth, in the south of the UK, they like him down there. He's a bit of a star down there. And, the fact, the Vitality Stadium is not massive, but it's a stadium nevertheless, the Premier League stadium as well. So he's getting these fans down here, he's getting these crowds. Is it not a good thing? That's one acquisition Ben Shalom has made that does seem to be working for him. He's obviously a world champion now. So Chris Billum Smith against Masternak, let's wait and see. Dennis McCann will face Eno Belute. That's going to be at the York Hall, great little venue, on August the 18th. So Dennis McCann, it's a step up of sort from McCann. Belute, he's been in there with some good guys. He's occasionally won. He's given guys like Michael Conlon all sorts of problems. Judging by his last fight, obviously he won his last fight. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was down, I think, twice in the first round. But he rallied back to win. I think that he is showing slight signs of a bit of a decline. McCann had he was getting a lot of attention when he turned over, when he was about 18. He was getting a lot of attention. It's kind of fizzled out a little bit. Between 2020 and 2021. But last year I felt we started to see signs of improvement from McCann there, certainly. So look, let's see how it goes. I think that is a good fight. Belute is he's solid European level, so it's a good step up for Dennis McCann. Let's see how that goes. Frank Warren has been, again, he's a decent fighter for the future. He's still quite young, so let's see how he looks. Eddie Hearn has confirmed that the Dillian Whyte rematch with Anthony Joshua will not happen. He said that the Whyte demand of 10 million is not true. That's false, but it's not going to happen nonetheless. He's mentioned Ajay Kabayel as one of the possible opponents, and I don't like that fight for a variety of reasons. For me, Anthony Joshua on the comeback, right? And again, bear in mind, every week that goes by, we get closer to August 12th, and it goes without saying, but the closer you get to it, the more promotion it's going to need, and the less time you're going to have to promote. So you're going to have to do overtime with the promotion. And, you want to get a good solid 2 months in a promotion, especially for someone like Anthony Joshua, against someone like possibly Ajay Kabayel, if it is him. Because let's face facts, we all know, who's watching this video, who Kabayel is. The majority of onlookers who just want to watch Anthony Joshua be like, who the hell is this guy? Most people don't know who he is. To be fair, he's been very obscure throughout his career in terms of he had that performance in Monaco. Well, it wasn't really a performance. It was a win against Chisora in Monaco 6 years ago, and done literally nothing since then. I think Rudenko was the best name on his resume since then. So Kabayel has been kind of in relative obscurity since he had that win over Chisora, and obviously it wasn't a performance, it wasn't a fight in general that had fans talking about and saying, wow, did you see the Chisora Kabayel fight? No one was doing that, believe me. No one was doing that about that fight. In terms of him as an opponent for Joshua, look, I'd be picking Joshua to win that fight. Yes, I would, certainly. But for me, if you're looking to rebuild Anthony Joshua, there's a variety of things you need to do, right? You need to get his confidence back. And I think that having him go through 2 fights, because I think this will be one of these fights where it's going to probably go the distance. He's going to be in there with someone who can be extremely negative and is just going to bore the fans and have the fans thinking, he's finished. What's the point? That's 2 performances now. That's finished. Joshua needs to look devastating. And I think against someone like Dillian Whyte or Gerald Washington, especially Gerald Washington, because he's got similar dimensions to Deontay Wilder, he could have looked devastating, right? But against someone like Kabayel, he ain't going to look devastating. I certainly don't think. I think that's going to be a long, drawn-out affair. Joshua might lose a round or 2, and you'll have fans just thinking, what on earth was that? Obviously we know that Kabayel fights like that, so I will be going into that fight expecting nothing less than a negative performance from Kabayel. It wouldn't surprise me. But for the average casual who's thinking, Joshua's going to knock this guy out, and then they go like, what was that? It was just 12 rounds and he didn't do anything. Explaining that to them, that's kind of Kabayel's what he's all about. For me, I just don't think that's an opponent, certainly at this stage in Joshua's comeback, they need. You know, I think that they need to... See, you need to look at it, right? I know Eddie Hearn wants Joshua. Look, Joshua is a cash cow still. And Eddie Hearn wants to make money for his own. He wants to make money for his business. I get that. So with Joshua, it's always going to be a fast comeback. And in terms of matchmaking, you know, sometimes you can, and rightfully so, you can question a lot of the matchmaking DAZN and Eddie Hearn have done. We can go back to the Sky days. You know, they've put fights on where they shouldn't have, and this, that, and the other, and they fast track guys when they really shouldn't have. Eddie Hearn needs to go and look at the past, right? Look at how people have been brought back, right? Give you an example, right? Mike Tyson, right? Who were the first two opponents he fought when he lost to Buster Douglas? He fought Henry Tillman, and he fought James Stewart. I think his name was James Stewart anyway. I think he was originally from the UK because he spoke with kind of UK accent. He's dead now, RIP. He fought George Foreman, just to name a few. Two things. One, Tillman was a cruiserweight. Yeah, he fought Tyson in the amateurs and he had a little bit of beef from there and he beat Tyson in the amateurs, but he was pretty obscure at that point. So it was an easy comeback knockout for Tyson. They had George Foreman versus Rodolfo. No, what was his name? Johnny Nelson fought him. I thought I was going to say Rodolfo Gonzalez, but it wasn't him. Nah, it's gone. Addison Rodriguez, that was the guy. Fought him on the undercard in Caesar's Palace. George Foreman knocked him out. And then Mike Tyson fought Tillman in the main event. And Tillman was a little bit chinny, you know, didn't belong at heavyweight, so that was that. Stewart was, I think it was Alex Stewart actually. Stewart's a known slow starter, right? Mike Tyson's a known fast starter. Perfect. You couldn't have asked for a better opponent. Slow start in heavyweight versus a fast start in Mike Tyson. Recipe for disaster right there. Brought Tyson back the right way. With Eddie Hearn, he's literally given Joshua a tough guy who's a bit awkward for his first fight, and now he's giving him a very negative, awkward kind of guy again. And I just don't think that's going to bode well. Certainly from the fans looking on, for pay-per-view buys, I don't think it'll do well. For Joshua's confidence, I don't think it'll do well. I think Joshua needs to go in there. Eddie Hearn needs to say, the hell with it. I'm putting it on standard DAZN. Go in there and take his head clean off his shoulders. Someone like a Gerald Washington or a Chris Arreola, someone like that. To help give Joshua that sense of, I'm still the lion, I'm still the king of the jungle. I can still go in there and take these guys' head off, rather than, oh yeah, I slipped and countered, pull back, wait for him to wait the shot. I just don't think for the comeback that's quite needed right now. Later on, yeah, definitely, but right now I just don't. I don't think so. So look, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. You know, will he still fight on August the 12th? That remains to be seen. We still haven't heard an announcement yet, but expect that incoming. In terms of some of the other things Eddie Hearn's been talking about, he stated that he wants Dmitry Bivol to actually defend his world title against Dan Aziz or Anthony Yarde next. He said he plans to speak with George Warren about Anthony Yarde, and he'll also approach Dan Aziz if he is a free agent. So the rumour is actually that Dan Aziz is a free agent, and that Eddie Hearn has actually made him an offer to fight Dmitry Bivol next. Now, obviously, he's penciled a date in September for, I think it's Dubai. Some people are speculating that could be Eubank versus Ben. Others are speculating that it could be Dmitry Bivol again. Now, I wouldn't rule out Dan Aziz actually taking Eddie Hearn up on that offer. And I'll tell you why. Because, well, obviously, the rumour is that August the 19th, that Dan Aziz is going to take on Joshua Buatsi. And I like Dan Aziz. Very fond of watching him. I think he's a very good fighter. He's impressed me, and he's improved a lot over the last couple of years. So I've been very impressed with him. Right, against Buatsi, I would be picking Dan Aziz over Craig Richards if they made that fight. Buatsi, again, styles make fights. Craig Richards done well, but it's a slightly different style. I would be picking Buatsi over Dan Aziz slightly. I would, but it's still a very, very good fight. The reason why I think Dan Aziz would take Eddie Hearn up on the offer is because we need to remember here, right? Dan Aziz turned pro about 6 years ago, thereabouts. He's actually 33 going on 34. He's not a young man, and he's not made crazy amounts of money in the pro game. So the rumour mill was that Buatsi was going to get offered around about $1 million to fight Dmitry Bivol. If Eddie Hearn maybe goes a little bit higher on that offer and maybe offers him $1 million, 1.5, maybe even, God forbid, $2 million, something like that, that for me would probably be enough for Dan Aziz to say, right, forget the Joshua Buatsi fight, I'm going in there for a world title. Because he's not made massive paydays in his career yet. He's not got an awful long time left in his career. I mean, at the end of the day, I should say, 34, 33, 34 at light heavyweight. You probably have more time than you would if you were fighting at welterweight, because light heavyweights, the higher you go, the more kind of time you tend to have. But still, I wouldn't be looking 5 years in the future for Dan Aziz, put it like that. So let's watch the space there. Would he take it? Would he not? Katie Taylor has decided to activate her rematch clause to fight Chantel Cameron next. Eddie Hearn says November, possibly. Maybe they'll do it in Dublin again. Oh, Jesus, I will never... I knew that would happen when they done this fight over here. That's one of the reasons why I didn't go. You'd have just these guys coming out of the woodwork who just literally... They never even... Wouldn't even know anything about boxing. It's like, we want our press passes. We're Irish. It's like, oh, these people, I swear. So we'll wait and see what they do there. Chantel Cameron, I can't see Taylor winning that rematch. I really can't. I really, truly can't. Now, this is an interesting one. Zan Koyabutsky, he had to withdraw from his fight against Jaron Anderson on July the 1st, stemming from visa issues. So, obviously, with that, they had to draft in another opponent. Now, they've got Charles Martin in as an opponent for Jaron Anderson. I'm in two minds about that fight, right? One, I'd be picking Jared Anderson either way. The Charles Martin, who was probably at his best, who fought Luis Ortiz, because that was a better version of Charles Martin. I'd still be picking Jared Anderson over any version of Charles Martin. The worry is that this is a short notice type of gig. God knows what kind of shape Charles Martin's going to be in on a short notice type of gig. And, you know, Martin, to his credit, obviously, the Joshua fight, he showed very questionable heart. Very questionable. But after that, in the Kalnaki fight, in the Ortiz fight, he did show that he had some fire in there, some heart in there. So, you know, let's have a look. Let's see. But I worry that, you know, Anderson will go in there and just steamroll him, and we might not really see anything new, if you know what I mean. So, look, let's watch the space there. Let's watch the space there. An interview Eddie Hearn gave with MMA Fighting, he's declared that it's his understanding that the Saudis want to actually make, wait for this, Francis Ngannou versus Derek Chisora on their planned show in December. Headlined by Fury Usyk, Joshua versus Wilder. I mean, talk about the bag being chucked around there. Chisora would take that fight instantly. The bag that those Saudis would give him, you know, Chisora. It's quite remarkable, really. He's got, what, 13, 14 losses? And he's still making in the millions for career purses. I mean, apparently, according to Fury, believe it if you... Or, sorry, it's according to Frank Warren, believe it if you want to believe it. Take it with a pinch of salt. But apparently, he made his career high purse in his last fight against Fury. Just imagine that, right? You know, imagine that, like, a couple of years ago. 2017, no, I think it was 2018, actually. It was 2018. David Hay, when he was managing and promoting Joe Joyce, was offering Chisora, like, 200 grand to fight Joe Joyce. And at the time, people were saying, Chisora should take that because he's never going to make that kind of money again. Fast forward to 2022, he's making career high paydays in the millions. I know, like, that fight should never have happened, but when you think about it, it's like, how the hell does he do it? How the hell does... That's just... He is the definition of a throwback fighter. And look, I don't like seeing Chisora in interviews now because I do think his speech has deteriorated a little bit, so I'd rather him just leave it. But I am so happy that someone like Chisora was able to just say, the hell with it, I don't care if I lose, and make serious paydays. Because I like seeing these guys get paid. And I quite like Derek Chisora. He seems like a cool guy. Him against Ngannou, probably still favourite Chisora, truth be told. Still, you know. Eddie Hearn also declared that he'd like to make Lee Wood versus Josh Warrington in September. The City Grounds in Nottingham, 25 to 30,000. That'd be a hell of a fight. I'd be favouring Lee Wood in that fight. In the Nottingham, in the City Grounds in Nottingham. You know, Nottingham isn't a million miles away from... It's kind of... Nottingham is Midlands, is in the Midlands. I don't know, I wouldn't mind seeing that fight, actually. I wouldn't mind going over to that. Who knows? He also stated that he's heard that Lopez hasn't officially vacated his WBO strap yet. He's only just texted the president of the WBO. Okay. In terms of other news, this is an interesting one. I heard Hatman and Ade talking about this. And it's basically saying that Skill Challenge Entertainment, they've denied that they're trying to sign Deontay Wilder, or actually they're denying, sorry, that Deontay Wilder and Devin Haney have signed with them or are on the verge of doing so. So the rumour mill is that Deontay Wilder is on the verge of signing with the Saudis, as is in fact Devin Haney. Obviously, they definitely do have the deepest pockets in the world of boxing. So if you sign with them, you get in the bag, simple as. You're going to have to fight over there, but you're getting the bag nonetheless. So the rumour mill I was hearing was that Deontay Wilder was on the verge or had signed, and that Devin Haney, they were in the ascendancy to sign him. So they're denying that. Let's watch the space with that, because, you know, Devin Haney and Deontay Wilder are both in a very privileged position in a sense that they've signed short-term deals. Well, Devin Haney definitely, I don't know about Wilder, but I know Wilder, I think he is a free agent now. I know he's still advised by Al Heyman, but he's not under any like deal to stay with PBC or anyone like that. With Devin Haney, obviously his top-ranked deal is gone. He's no longer with his own, so he literally can just open it up to the highest bidder, which I think if you are a boxer and you have anyway decent star power, or you have something like Devin Haney in the sense of you're undisputed at lightweight, that really is the way forward. You know, maximize the revenue, take a short-term deal with whoever, rather than doing what someone like Anthony Joshua did or Daniel Dubois did. Well, with Joshua, it's a lifetime deal with the Zone and Matchroom Madness. With Daniel Dubois, I think it was 2020 or 2021, he signed a 5-year deal with Queensbury. I think it was 5 years anyway, thereabouts anyway. It was a long-term deal. Don't do that. Don't lock yourself in for a prolonged period of time, because if that promoter goes south, I mean, look at Isaac Chamberlain. Perfect example. He's signed. I'm just going to... Why? I like Isaac Chamberlain, but why would you do this? A flipping 5-year deal with Mick Hennessy of all people, and his company is gone absolutely to the dogs. He's having to go and scrape onto whatever Sky show he can get. And it's just like, what the hell? Why would you do that? Makes no sense. You know, I just... That was just bizarre for me when Chamberlain did that. It really was. Made no sense whatsoever. Vodsek is out there calling out Dmitry Bivol on Instagram today, saying that he'd like to get that fight. Do you know what? Prime Vodsek versus Prime Bivol, very interesting fight. Very, very, very interesting fight. Now, not so much. Jesse Bam Rodriguez, this is great news, lads. Wait to hear this. Jesse Bam Rodriguez versus Sonny Edwards is now reportedly signed and will take place WBO IBF unification fight at lightweight. Date and venue to be confirmed, but later on this coming year. Lads, that's a great fight. I'll be favouring Jesse Bam Rodriguez in that fight, but it's a great fight nonetheless. Hopefully, let's see. Oh, Jesus Christ. Tony Bellew is hinting at coming out of retirement. At the age of 40, he wants to fight Bridgerweight champion Lucas Rozansky. I think you're in need of a fight that goes past 4 rounds at Rozansky Boxing. On board, and don't see anything that suggests you can do it against me. What do you think? Jesus Christ. You know, that's just Bellew trying to stay relevant. You know, Bellew, let's say Eddie Hearn and DAZN came to their senses and said, what the hell is he doing on our TV show? We need to get someone else who can actually, you know, do the job rather than just be there trying to be a cheerleader. And let's say TalkSport said, why the hell do we have this guy on here just talking absolute nonsense? If he was away from the camera, I mean, that he would literally crack up, because he is someone who is so egotistical, he just has to make himself relevant. In terms of coming back, I mean, a Bridgerweight title, put it like this, put it in context, that Bridgerweight title, if you go on Wikipedia, they don't recognise it. If you go on BoxRec, they don't recognise it. All the other sanctioning bodies don't recognise it. It's literally just a stupid title. It had no need to go into boxing. It was a cheap virtue signal by Sullivan, again, naming it after, I forget I forget what he named it after, but it was a virtue signal, I know that. And it has no bearing. You know, there's not enough fighters who fight Bridgerweight to be able to do mandatories or anything like that. It's a complete... Like, Alan Babbage can fight a who's he of the heavyweight and cruiserweight division, you know, because it was kind of somewhere cruiserweight, somewhere heavyweights, and be made mandatory. Amazing. So, that Bridgerweight title, for what it's worth, look, it is I don't count it. The majority of people watching don't count it. It's a completely nonsensical title. It would do them better to decide, am I a heavyweight, am I a cruiserweight, one or the other. It would do them better to do that rather than just cling on to a strap that means zilch. It literally... That Bridgerweight title is just so unnecessary. The last thing we need is another weight division in boxing. And it's really not caught on. You know, when it first came to public attention, I was like, I hope this doesn't catch on. It hasn't caught on, thank God. The other sanctioned bodies haven't followed suit. They don't seem to give a damn. You know, I think like you could still see Rozansky ranked at, say, cruiserweight or heavyweight with a WBO, WBA, so they obviously don't seem to give a you-know-what about it. So that's Bellew probably just trying to stay relevant and get his name back out there again until he finds something that he can virtue signal over, and then obviously he will focus on that. For now, I will leave you with that, lads and lassies. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, lads, I'll talk to you. Peace.